Hello everyone. Been a little remiss in not posting updates on the Nutcracker build, but as the deadline got closer and closer, I felt pressured to just get the job done without having to worry about camera angles and explaining what was going on. I got a lot of the various points done, and they were photos taken, and so I'll be get a good idea as to how the construction of the Nutcrackers went. But a lot of it's boring too. See me paper mache and stuff. But that's actually what I'm going to be talking about on this episode. Is just my paper mache technique, and try to bring it all up to completion. Of course, the Nutcrackers are essentially done right now. I've the last thing I have to do is actually do the scepter and the sword for each of the things, but otherwise they're done. So probably by another day or two, it'll actually be completely done for next year. So, but they were done, painted, and finished for all intents and purposes for Christmas. Actually, Christmas Day, I had finished it up. So,
Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me. This morning, I'm going to be paper macheing the heads on the two soldiers, and I'll show you my technique for doing that. What you'll find is if you look at the paper macheing masters, Stalloween, Spooky Blue, Dan Reeder, he does the awesome dragons on his Monster Man website. I think it's Ultimate Paper, not Ultimate Paper Mache. It's the Paper Mache blog. That's his website. You'll see that my techniques are really a combination of all of theirs. So nothing new that I'm really doing here, just my own adaptation of paper mache. And that's really what I like about paper mache, is that very simple, cheap process, and it can be adapted to whatever it is that you need it to do. So I find you end up with a very durable product at the end, one that looks good and really doesn't take all that long. So that's why I like paper mache. As I've said before, it's one of my favorite mediums to work with, along with Monster Mud. And so I'm going to be paper macheing the heads on the soldiers this morning. One thing I did do earlier was I filled the voids in the shoulders here with the expanding foam with great stuff. And after this has an opportunity to dry, I'll trim it down, and then once it's painted over, in theory it should blend right in. So I'll start my paper mache process now. What I like to do is actually paint on the mache paste first onto the area that I'm going to be paper macheing, and so just allows me to cover more area. And starting with an area like that, I like to start out, I use a couple of different kinds of paper in my mache. I start off using yellow page paper because it's very thin. It tends to conform to the shape of whatever it is I'm paper macheing. So I like my first layer to get that shape really well, and the paper mache does just that. I mean, the telephone, the yellow pages paper does just that. I also like to finish up with the yellow pages paper because it provides a nice smoother surface than I find in regular paper. So usually my first layer will be the yellow pages, and just place it right on there, tap it down, and then with the brush cover it over again, lay the next one on top of that, and cover it over. You could always smooth it down if you have to with the finger. I try to be a little bit neat with this and not get my fingers involved. I know that Dan Reeder says put your hands right into the stuff and end up rubbing it over. I do at the end. I will take my hand and I will smooth it down, go over it like this, smooth it down, just to try and make sure that there's a complete contact between the paper and the surface beneath it. Because I tend to be impatient, I like to help speed up the drying process, and so I use my heat gun to do that. Here it's going to be a little bit different than what I might have done down below, only because it's got the beach ball underneath. It's essentially a balloon, so I don't want to heat that up too much because I want this shape to hold so I can put the other forms on it. So I'm not going to get so close to it, but I can, but I will go from a distance to help dry it up and then allow it to fully dry before I put another layer on. Not waiting for it to dry can help encourage mold growth, and so I like to use the heat gun to help the drying process and then allow it to cure fully and then put on another layer of mache. You can see the paper starting to dry here. It's turning a different color, a lighter color, and actually when it's dry it'll have like a grayish cast to it, just from the mache paste that's on it. By not going to, I don't want that balloon to pop or deflate just yet, so I'm actually probably not going to go too much with this, and just let it dry on its own. I'll come back later on, and when it's if it's not completely dry, then I'll go over it. But once I start building up the layers on this, I don't have to worry so much then about the balloon underneath, and it can deflate all at once and even fall inside the chamber here, because the mache will hold its shape and it'll be solid. But until that time, I don't want to ruin the integrity of the supporting form underneath. The next thing I'm doing is putting a nose on the Nutcrackers on the face. I've taken the corrugated plastic, cut some triangular shapes out of it, and I will hot glue them, one here and one here, onto the face, and then I'll paper mache over the top of them, and to give it the nose here. The eyes will end up being painted in here, and then the mouth will come here. There will be a jaw right here, and then a beard. I'm not even sure if I'm showing this on the camera. Mouth here, and then a beard will be put in here, and then I'll paint the eyes in up here. But the nose will be right around here. And so, just waiting for the hot glue gun to warm up. I've already cut out the boot shape too. A little notch to go over the toilet flange, and I'm going to hot glue that into place now. Getting closer to the finish line, everyone. Okay, working on the boots. What I did was, using the corrugated plastic, I cut out some fins to make a form that I'll use to paper mache over. And so I formed them by putting tape around the fins, and you can see that covered up most of the flange underneath there, and I'll just end up painting that whatever the base color is, whatever's left over. And so taped up the boot, taped up the nose, and then do the same thing on this one, and can start paper macheing that. And then I think I'm actually going to make the hat out of chicken wire, and I'll have a tube, a chicken wire tube, coming up. You can't see my hand here. Coming up to about almost to that joist up there, and I guess I just did back. Yeah, it'll be about that high, and then a crown, probably out of cardboard, and probably a crumpled up paper ball in the center to make a round point underneath. But the pointy crown around the outside of that will be made out of cardboard. So on to taping up the rest of the boots and starting the paper mache. I'm working on the hats right now, the hat and the crown for the Nutcrackers, and so far I've been paper macheing the feet on their boots, like that. Their nose is paper mache. They got one more layer of paper mache to go there before they're done, and then I'll coat the whole thing with the spar varnish, just as I did the bottom when I got done on the bottom of the jacket flare. So working on the hats right now, and my original goal was to use chicken wire. So I had formed this, but I wasn't happy with it. For one, the circle wasn't wide enough, so it stood up on the head too far. And then I decided that wasn't going to cut it really, because once I started to paper mache it and all, it wouldn't look as smooth and neat as I wanted it to. It shouldn't be like a beat-up hat that they have. It should be a pretty uniform, smooth finish to it. So even though I'd be paper macheing and monster mudding over the top of it, I wanted it to still look smoother than what I figured it was going to come out to be. So I decided to use the corrugated cardboard that I used to make the fins on the jacket and the boots and stuff like that, and to basically cut a shape that would be like the hat. So I didn't vlog the whole thing, but right now what I'm doing is this is what I've got so far. This is the form that I have. I'll move it over here and just stick it on top of the soldier. So let's see if you can actually see it. This will actually, there we go. So, and then it'll be taped up and then paper macheed, and then monster mud and stuff like that. But right now, so I actually like the way it's coming out. This is you can see it from over here. So you can see in the front over here, it's higher, and then in the back, it'll actually be tilted back a little bit more. I'll push it down, but it's shorter than it is up here, and it goes down, and it actually flares out a little bit. How I did that was I cut two circles. You can see the two circles. Yeah. Okay, here you go. I really got to take that cap off. So you can see the two circles here. The top one is larger than the bottom one. The bottom one is actually take the base that the feet are standing on, which I guess was the 16-inch diameter tube. And so that's the base, and then I just cut out a circle inside of it, about a 1/2 inch wide. And then that actually fit on the head nicely where I liked it. And then the second one, the inner circle is about 16 inches, and then the outer circle is actually about 1 inch wider. It's maybe 17 inches or so, and that allows for the flare. So what I did then afterwards is cut out sections of the cardboard at various lengths that I liked. And so this is the highest one, and then these two back here are the shortest ones. They're actually the same size. They were hot glued in place, and then this is slightly smaller than this one, slightly larger than these back here. And so this one and that one was put in, and now I've cut out 2 more here, and they're going to attach here, and then there'll be one on the other side over there, and I'm going to hot glue them in place now, so stand by. The crown is done too, so again I'll be getting cardboard and putting cardboard in here like this, and then a scoop here like that, and then it'll all get taped up. And in the center there'll be a mound here, and then paper mache. Now I'm not quite sure how I'm going to attach it to the head. So obviously I don't want them blowing off. Don't want the king to lose his crown. However, what I'm thinking of doing is once I tape up all the sides, I'm going to not do the top, the hole in the top up here, and I'm going to use that as a means of putting in great stuff. I'll squirt in great stuff all along the edge and allow that to form the bond between the head and the hat. And then I'll cover up the hole and paper mache into it. Here we are right now, and what you're seeing is the Nutcracker with a layer of monster mud on top of it. Didn't do the PVC because that wasn't necessary. And here's the other one. And the reason I've done this is that it provides a generally uniform surface for when I paint the Nutcrackers. It also smooths out some of the bumps that were there, and covers up ridges, things like that. It's not perfect, as you can see if I show you down here. You can see where some of the paper has lifted up and all. But what I'm going to be doing is putting a second layer of monster mud on top of this, and that'll smooth it out a lot more. And probably if I did a third one, I would get rid of all the bumps and it'd be a completely smooth surface. But that's going to end up taking me beyond Christmas, and can't do that. So going to have to go with the 2 layers of monster mud on top of it, and we'll be able to put the dry lock on and then actually paint the colors on top of it. So all of this was actually paper mache, and you might have seen some of that. Right now as I'm talking, I can't remember what I've videoed and what I didn't. Because I was running out of time, I didn't actually bother setting up the camera and explaining what I was doing as I was going along. Just came down and was working on it assiduously. One thing though that didn't get to be shown, I'm just showing you the top of the hat here to see that it is covered up, is I actually, the hat is actually attached here. It can't come off. It's paper mache'd on, and it's got the layer of monster mud on top of it, all locking it into the head. I saw a comment saying that maybe make it removable, but if that was just for storage, I have no problems with that right now. I got plenty of room under my porch to fit these, and even though it's taking away from my space for Halloween props. What I did, though, to attach the hats and the crown to the head was I placed the hat on the head, and then through the top sprayed in Great Stuff foam all the way around the edge, and let that set up, and then that locked it in. Once it was dried, it locked it into the head. We'd also filled it up about halfway just to give it a little bit more rigidity, and so it wasn't going to be flexible or not. On the crown, what I did, you can see that the hat, it's got like a cover over the top. It's not just a crown that goes down to the head, and I did that by spraying in the Great Stuff foam all around the edge. Then I just took crumpled up magazine pages and filled up on top of that once it dried. So that gave me more of a cover over the top of it. Taped it, paper mached it, then paper mached the entire thing, paper mached it into the head, and here too, covered it with Monster Mud. So what I'm going to do now is put another coat of Monster Mud on top of it, and I just use a paintbrush, just paint it on, really. And if I need to, I smooth it out with my hand. But I'm finding I don't like to get that dry, dusty feeling on my fingers, so I use the paintbrush to apply it. And I'll let that dry, and then I'll put on a coat of dry lock. That'll be done tonight. Of course, it'll take about during the day, a couple hours for it to dry, the Monster Mud. Of course, it's very thin coats that I apply and build them up. That way it doesn't take so long to dry. And then put the dry lock on top of that, let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow I'll begin painting. Now, I just wanted to show you one more thing. As you can see, I've actually colored my Monster Mud yellow. A lot of times you're going to see, most of the time you're going to see Monster Mud is gray from having mixed in black paint into the drywall. Yeah, compound, joint compound. But you don't have to. You can mix in any color, whatever's going to be most useful to you. Now, if I wasn't going to cover this in dry lock, this would be really useful, the lighter color, because I'm going to be painting over it. And as you're aware, painting over dark colors is a much more difficult process. By having a lighter color as your base, as your primer almost, you don't have to worry so much about the trying to cover up the darker color. Also, if I wasn't going to be putting dry lock on here, what I would do after this coat dried, I would take a damp sponge and I would wipe it down. I might do that anyway, but it's not going to be so critical because when I put the dry lock on, it's got the grittiness to it already, so it's going to not be perfectly smooth. When I made my Gravedigger head, which was actually a paper mache skull that I had made, and then built it up with paper clay, and then covered it with Monster Mud as the final coat on it before painting, that I actually smoothed out with the damp sponge, and to make it a little bit smoother, of course. So there are times that you'd want to smooth out the surface. In this instance, it's not going to be critical because, as I said, I'm going to be putting dry lock on top of it, and that will give it a rougher finish anyway. The purpose of the Monster Mud is basically to fill in voids and stuff like that. Provides a hard shell, another layer of protection for the paper mache underneath, and a base for the paint to adhere to it better. So again, just wanted to show you that Monster Mud doesn't have to be gray, and it can be any color you want. And there are many times that you find that you're going to want to have a lighter color so that you don't have to cover up a dark gray finish.
Unfortunately, like I said, I was under pressure for time, so I didn't video at all the painting. So from the part that you just saw until what you're going to see now, there was no video at all taken. But essentially, this is the final product on the Nutcrackers. So enjoy.
So there they are, side by side. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the way they came out. And I think when I store them, I'm actually going to use Stiltby Studios' method of corpsing with plastic sheeting and a heat gun. So I'm going to cover them all up in the plastic wrap and shrink wrap it to the piece for protection, because they'll be stored underneath my front porch for the year until next year. And there you have my 2 Nutcrackers.
And one more housekeeping item. Had a lot of new subscribers to my channel, and thank you for subscribing. So you'll see some shout outs coming up right now. If you like what you're seeing, subscribe to my channel and check out my blog, www.devilseve.blogspot.com, where you'll find a lot more ideas and information on Halloween and haunt-related topics. Thanks for watching.